In the past financial year, over 51,000 illegal immigrants were deported. Illegal immigration does place a great deal of strain on our social services, and it also undermines our national security. We should not, however, allow vigilante acts targeting national or foreign nationals, as these do not solve the problem and they just undermine the rule of law. It continues to be disturbing to see how ordinary people are being forced out of our health services just because they come from other countries. This is not us. This is un-South African. This is not what our Constitution is all about. Employers who employ undocumented migrants will be dealt with. And they now need to know more clearly and firmly that they will be prosecuted and they will be fined and they could even be arrested.
Thank you, Honourable President. Question number 23 has been asked by the Honourable Hadebe. The question is, given the growing crisis of illegal migration in the Republic, which according to various experts and civil society representatives continue to strain public resources, undermine national security and fuel social tensions, and given the calls for decisive government action to repatriate those who are in the Republic unlawfully while promoting legal and skills-based migration, what policy interventions does he intend to initiate to address the crisis of the estimated 15% of undocumented foreign nationals? And how will the government coordinate law enforcement and home affairs to enforce immigration laws and secure the Republic's borders? The Honourable President.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. There are quite a number of interventions that we intend to embark upon. And so you know, the leaders of the Government of National Unity held their retreat just this past weekend, and one of the issues that was prominently on the table was the issue of migration, more particularly the influx of illegal immigrants into our country. One of the most important interventions to tackle the problem of illegal immigration is to secure our borders. The newly established Border Management Authority has deployed 600 border guards at vulnerable segments of our country border system to prevent illegal migrants that are undocumented and are inadmissible from entering the country. I was talking to the leader of the BMA, and he was saying, Mr. President, we are making great success because we have, and he told me the time frame, been able to stop thousands of people from flooding into our country. So the BMA has demonstrated the effectiveness of modern technology, like the utilization of drones. Minister Schreiber has also related to me how the utilization of these drones has been most effective. They are also using body cameras in creating a more secure and digital border environment. Dr. Masia Pato was telling me, the leader of the BMA, that even as we will be having a flood of visitors to the G20, those who receive our visitors will be having body cameras. And that, in many ways, is the utilization of technology to make sure that we get rid of any form of corruption, any form of fraud, and we're able to ensure that those who interface with those who want to come into our country see that they are dealing with professionals. Phase 1 of the electronic travel authorization system is currently being rolled out for the G20 delegates. Over 200 applications have already been made. been seamlessly processed by this new system, which uses machine learning to verify the authenticity of documents and facial recognition to secure immigration process. Following the stabilization phase around the G20, electronic travel authorization will be open for tourist visas and other visa categories. This will ultimately lead to the automation of entry and exit processes at our borders, including land borders. This will eliminate the space for the abuse of paper-based and manual processes through biometric verification and digital transformation. Another area of work is to detect, apprehend, and deport illegal migrants in our country. This is mainly done through intelligence-driven joint operations planned and executed by the Department of Home Affairs and the Inland Inspectorate and other structures. These structures are coordinated and account to the Interministerial Consultative Committee on Border Management and our net joints. In the past financial year, over 51,000 illegal immigrants were deported. Engagements with countries whose nationals are frequent transgressors are ongoing through discussions with their embassies, and these matters are also included as an agenda item on the binational commissions that we have with the various countries. So this is to ensure that the implication of illegal migration is understood. Illegal immigration does place a great deal of strain on our social services, and it also undermines our national security. Many of our people were very disturbed when they saw how, after a horrible bus crash which killed many people, people were seen to have hoarded a lot of medical medicines, which they were taking to their various countries. And a number of these people were not documented. So South Africans are justifiably concerned about the issue of undocumented migrants who come to our country. We should not, however, allow vigilante acts targeting national or foreign nationals, as these do not solve the problem and they just undermine the rule of law. Instead, we need to address this challenge by strengthening the enforcement of our laws and the resourcing of the border management capabilities. But as we strengthen prevention through the border management process, we need also to strengthen enforcement. The Immigration Act prohibits anyone from employing illegal foreigners who are not documented. This law prescribes the employment of an illegal, undocumented immigrant as an offense that is punishable through imprisonment or a fine, or both imprisonment or a fine. And the Labor Relations Act and the Basic Conditions of Employment Act does protect foreign nationals who are certificated and documented. But we must now state it very clearly. I want to state it very clearly that employers who continue to employ people who are not documented are committing an offense. And we are going to make sure that those employers stop what they are doing, because South Africans are most unhappy. And they have a sense that the jobs that they should be performing are being taken from them by those who are not documented, but particularly by those employers who practice acts such as employing people from other countries undocumented because they are cheap labor. So they are committing an offense, and I call on employers, they must stop employing people who are not properly documented, And this is not xenophobic on our side. We welcome, and we've always welcomed workers from other countries who are certificated, who are documented. And we should also know that South Africans, even as they go to other countries, they can't just walk into a country and say, I want a job without being documented or certificated. Other countries require those who work in their countries to be documented. So we require exactly the same thing here. So employers must be warned that if they continue with this practice, it is an offense, they can be fined, and they can be put in prison. So clear warning to all employers. We must follow what the law prescribes in this regard. The Department of Labor has presented an Employment Services Amendments Bill that is to introduce quotas, as it were. Now, the department has, together with Home Affairs, been conducting a number of inspections, and they have been making great success. The operations that are being conducted by Deputy Minister Joe Mosibia and other multidisciplinary colleagues are having fruit, but we want employers to make sure that they do not employ undocumented people. They must make sure that they stick by the terms of our law. And this is what will ensure that we create more employment for our people, we create more economic opportunities, and so that South Africans must not have a sense that their jobs are being taken away by people who are not documented. However, we do welcome people who are documented. They can always come and work in our country because we need their skills. We need their know-how. We also need the investment that they bring into our country. And this is the very progressive process that we should all embark upon moving forward. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Hadebe.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Honourable President, recognizing that the issue of illegal migration extends beyond South Africa's borders and is deeply rooted in regional instability, economic inequality, and weak governance structures within the parts of SADC region, what concrete diplomatic and policy measures is the Government of National Unity pursuing through SADC frameworks to enhance joint border management, harmonize migration and labor mobility policies, strengthen data sharing and early warning systems on irregular migration, and promote regional economic development that addresses the push factors driving large-scale migration into South Africa? I thank you.
The Honourable President.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. As I said, we are using and will continue to use a multidisciplinary approach in dealing with this matter. People throng to our country because they are facing economic challenges in their own country. In a way, they are economic migrants or refugees. However, we would like those who come to our country to be properly documented. But at the same time, through diplomatic means, as I said, through binational commissions that we have with various countries, we discuss these matters. And we argue that we should have a regional approach and strategy of dealing with issues of migration. But more importantly, it is also important that all countries in the region should promote economic growth so that we can see the economies of various countries in our region growing. And that will forestall the need for people to want to come to our country. So we need to have a much more comprehensive approach and policy that will promote the economic growth, not only of ourselves, but various countries in our region. And it is to this end that the Africa Continental Free Trade Area will play an important role to enhance trading amongst all our nations, not only in Southern Africa, but on the continent. And that in itself will then, yes, promote the movement of people. And the movement of people must be on a documented basis. People must be able to, yes, move seamlessly throughout the region, but properly documented and properly permitted. So if we approach it in a coordinated fashion on a multidisciplinary basis, we will be able to see virtual progress that will grip the entire region. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Ruiz.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Honorable President, we welcome the no-nonsense progress that has been made under Minister Leon Schreiber at the Border Management Authority, with a staggering increase of triple the number of illegal border crossings stopped in the last festive season alone. However, for the BMA to fully deliver on its mandate, it needs to be properly funded and equipped in terms of the Act. The BMA was formally established as a Schedule 3A entity, a public entity, on the 1st of April 2023. So it's been 2 years and 7 months since the SAPS border police have not been integrated into the BMA. So, Honourable President, will you commit to ensuring that the transfer of SAPS border units to the BMA will be finalised in full in compliance with the Act? And within what time frame can the nation expect this to be completed?
The Honourable President.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. When I appointed Minister Schreiber to be Minister of Home Affairs, he was overjoyed to find that the BMA is in place and that it is working. Now, Minister Schreiber gives me reports on an ongoing basis. And he often says, Mr. President, I could not be happier because I have really dedicated people in Home Affairs. And he is now in addition to a team that is really doing good work. So we need to look at the entire team and encourage them because they play a critical role. You're absolutely right that having set up the BMA, and let me add, the BMA took a long time to be set up. And some of the problems were here in this house because there were, I suppose, when reforms have to be implemented, it takes time for those who have a monopoly of control over certain processes to let go. And they have to be nudged, they have to be taken forward. This is where I wish I was a dictator because then it would just happen like that. So our constitution is such that, and the laws that you all have passed are such that, you know, you nudge people along and you dot every T and you cross every comma and all that. But it is getting there. And you want to know when will the South African police be fully integrated? They will be. We're working on that, and I'm not able to give you a time frame. But the BMA, I promise you, is one of the great reforms that we have implemented in the past 2 administrations. It's a good thing because it works in other countries, and we were too slow as South Africans to lead up to where we are with the BMA. Now, resourcing the BMA is another important task. We have been, because of our economic situation, we have scaled back on resourcing the Defence Force, the police, and the BMA, and correctional services, and we are now gearing up more and more to resource these entities. And Minister Schreiber will soon be smiling when he hears that, yes, there will be a little bit more additional money that will be given to the BMA. And so will the others as well. So we're making progress. But let's not make the progress that we are making one-dimensional. It must be multidimensional. It must be the entire government of national unity that is working together to effect the progress that we are making. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Third supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Letlape.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And welcome home, Mr. President, from Asia.
Yes.
Since we are a nation with a friendly, all who live in it, rights-based approach, with stressed social services, how will the President ensure that the pain of taking care of our guests in health services is not only borne by the ordinary who rely on public services, but by all South Africans, especially members of this House, to be able to make actions of groups like Dudula and Much Too Much not necessary? As for example, the President has spoken about beautifying the cities for our guests from G20. Can we also ensure that our guests that need social services see the best side of South Africa by being taken care of where we go for our health care, in the private
Thank
sector,
you, Honourable
not
Letlape.
where we have distressed services?
The Honourable President.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, it's been very disturbing, and it continues to be disturbing to see how ordinary people are being forced out of our health services just because they come from other countries. This is not us. This is un-South African. This is not Ubuntu. Now, our Ubuntu characteristic must be clearly played out in how we deal with people from other countries as well. It must be clearly put on display in promoting and respecting their dignity and treating them just as we want to be treated. When the apartheid government forced many of our compatriots outside of our country, we were well treated. When O.R. Tambo and many others went to various locales, not only on our continent but globally, they were well received, well treated, and it is a real blight on the character of our nation to see how South Africans will take the trouble of going to hospitals and clinics and taking people out and preventing them from being treated. This is not what our Constitution is all about. Our Constitution is about the respect of the rights of people. It's not only the respect of the rights of certain people, all people. Much as we have challenges in our resources, in our hospitals and clinics, it does not mean that we have to be cruel. It does not mean that we have to treat other people badly. So what those organizations have been doing is un-South African. It's not us. They don't represent who we are. And we must all say so. That's not who we are. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Kwankwa.
President, thank you very much. The crisis of illegal immigration in South Africa continues to affect ordinary citizens, particularly in the labour market, as you've already highlighted. President, in this regard, the hypocrisy of some of the African countries on this issue cannot continue to go unchallenged. Across the African continent, governments defend their labour markets. Zimbabwe's indigenization policy is one example. Tanzania's business licensing order excludes non-citizens from many trades. Ghana's Investment Promotion Act reserves certain occupations for Ghanaians. We have raised this matter on numerous occasions, that there needs to be a reserve policy, especially for South Africans, to ensure that we protect certain sectors for them. Even the African peer review mechanism, the country report in 2007, warned us that we should address the unfair competition that takes place between locals and illegal immigrants in policy and in law. The question I want to ask, why does the government continue to deny South Africans such a protection, especially for informal trading and other issues? And why have you failed to act against employers
Thank
who have
you, Honourable
employed illegal
Kwankwa.
immigrants for decades? Thank you.
The Honourable President.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, the last issue that Honorable Kwankwa raises is being addressed. I spoke to it, and I have made it clear that employers who employ undocumented migrants will be dealt with. And they now need to know more clearly and firmly that they will be prosecuted, and they will be fined, and they could even be arrested, because it is an offense to do so. Now, that whole process has also been constrained by the availability of the various inspectors and personnel, but there is now an intergovernmental working together structure that is going to enhance all that. And hence, we are now saying to employers, be aware that you will be prosecuted if you employ undocumented people. Now, when it comes to businesses, the departments that deal with business operations like DTIC, like the small business, are working on precisely how we should respond to this. Because as you correctly say, many other countries, even on our continent, do have either quotas or do have preventative regulations about the conducting of businesses by people who do not have documentation to be in South Africa. It does not mean that you ban completely. It means that it needs to be properly regulated, properly permitted, properly registered. So that is precisely what is being worked on. When we went through the issue of food poisoning, we embarked on a process of getting small businesses that are dealing either in the township or rural areas, the so-called spaza shops, to be properly registered. That process continues. And through that, we are able to see exactly the incidence of people who are from other countries who may not be permitted to be here, and a clearer policy will be crafted in that regard. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker.